back and ready to roll. This is episode number 43 of the Shutdown Inning Podcast. I am Steven Rissotto and joined by my co-host, as always, it is Tylor Hall. Tylor, what's going on? It's baseball season.
Hey, everybody. It's baseball season. We have two games in the can, and then we have like another week of spring training. But we have some real baseball. And, a week out from opening day, what better time to do our season preview, Steven?
There's no better time, and we have some regular season stuff going on already. The Dodgers and Padres have opened up in Seoul, South Korea. Um, Real quick, do you pay attention to that? Because the games are really early in the morning, and I look at the box score after. That's about as deep into it as I could
Yeah.
get. So, what about you?
Yeah, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. for Dodgers Padres baseball. I checked the
Yeah.
box scores when I woke up. Basically, when I wake up, the game was over, so I checked it out. Looks like the Padres could have gotten out of there with a sweep, a two-game sweep, if Jake Cronenworth had a functional first baseman's glove. That was kind of brutal to watch if you're a Padres fan, I'm sure. But the second game was an offensive show for the fans in Korea. So, hopefully, I don't really I'm not a huge fan of the play two games that matter, come back, play like four or five that don't again, and then your games matter again. But hopefully this, does what Major League Baseball is hoping for, and it's creating some more fans overseas. I think that's the real ticket. I know the main reason they do it is they want to make sure that they're watching major league caliber players for all nine on those overseas games, and you're not playing, a spring training roster where Betts and Tatis play like 2 or 3 innings and then you pull them. So I get why they do it in that aspect, but they got to see two great teams play, and hopefully there's some more baseball fans in Korea now.
Yeah, I got to exactly, and I think that's a big part of it is like MLB's trying to get the reach internationally, and they've done London, they've done Mexico City, they've done Japan, and like why not South Korea? Like exactly, why not?
Yeah.
It's just adding it to the plethora of options that you could have. And for those fans, I think it's more meaningful than the fans here, and that's probably why maybe I'm not into it. Again, because it's early and I'm sleeping, but uh everything seemed like it went well. I heard Yamamoto kind of got lit up in game two. I
Yeah,
saw his
made it
box
through
score.
1 inning. I think he gave up 5 earned in 1 inning.
Yeah, not a great debut in Major League Baseball for Yamamoto, but we'll get to him in a bit because I might have some interesting predictions for him. Um, but I mean, should we transition into kind of what happened in Korea, or should we hit the Snell stuff first? What do you want to do?
I mean, let's just stick with Korea. I guess we can talk about. Luckily,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone followed. There was a bomb threat before Game One of the series.
Really?
Luckily, yeah, there was a bomb threat. They had to sweep the stadium before Game One. Someone from it was in English, but I think they found out it was from Japan. Said that they were going to detonate a bomb at the Sky Dome, I think it's called there. So luckily that didn't happen, but during right after game one, another bomb dropped, and that's this Shohei Ohtani gambling thing. Well, I guess his translator. Also, that threat coming from Japan's a little strange now in retrospect, looking back at it. But I mean, how do we even want to break this down? Essentially, now the gist of it now is Ohtani is accusing, or Ohtani's lawyers, Ohtani hadn't even said anything, is accusing his translator, Ippy Mizuhara, of stealing $4.5 million from him to cover his illegal gambling debts. And all this came out because the bookie that was being used is now under federal investigation. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, Steven. It sure seems like Ippy's the fall guy here. What are you thinking here?
Well, that was the first thing that came to my mind too, is like, you know, in it everybody that starts a sentence with "I'm not a conspiracy theorist," but like annoys me, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it does seem like this poor Epi guy, like maybe he's involved. Like let's say there's a universe where like this is a he issue, this is a solely he issue, and nobody, Shohei is just kind of like trying to be a nice guy and pay off his stuff, and all of that, and that's what happened. And but this is a big story, but I feel like it should be an even bigger story. Like Pete Rose was a story that took over everything in like the what was it, 80s and 90s when that happened. And Shohei is the most marketable athlete right now in baseball. And it's not even close. The whoever's second is so far behind Shohei, it's not even close. And for this to
Yeah,
be
I
surrounding
think it's
him,
Harp. They were talking about this on KMBR the other day. Sorry to cut you off. I think it's
yeah,
like Harper and maybe like Tatis. They're on endorsements. They're at like 8 million, 9 million a year, and Otani's like 50, 60
50,
million
yeah.
dollars a year.
It's so he's so ahead of everybody else. Okay. And okay, diving into kind of I guess what happened. Um, what if this was like Shohei, what if this was Epi placing bets on Shohei's behalf? Like there's so many ways you could look at this. I don't know what to think. But I do find it weird that Epi had access to Shohei Ohtani's bank account or got access
Or did
somehow.
he?
Yeah, or did he? Or was this Shohei paying off? You know, and the this I don't know how much of an issue this would be if there wasn't two stories that were shared to the media.
Well, yeah. The crazy part is they came out initially and said Ohtani, yeah, because there's a wire transfer of $4.5 million from Ohtani's account to this bookie, I guess we'll call him. And originally they came out and said this was Ohtani paying off Mizuhara's gambling debt.
Mhm.
And then like right after that,
Wanted to be a good friend, yeah.
yeah, you want to be a good friend. And then like within like but as the story was still breaking, the lawyers came out and said, no, that money was stolen from Ohtani. So it's like Ohtani's, side can't even get the story straight on how this $4.5 million went where it went and why it went there, which is bizarre. And one other thing that I just looked up because I was curious, and it actually just came out a couple hours ago. Mizuhara has told ESPN his annual salary, his whole time he's been with Ohtani, is somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000. So how's this guy placing $1 million bets on his own?
Yeah.
He's not. He's not. And how's anyone letting him go $4.5 million into gambling debt? They're
Yeah,
not. I mean,
exactly. Like is Epi that reckless? Is he that maybe like is he placing these bets knowing, okay, I got a guy that could possibly like help me out with the like I don't think
yeah,
so. I agree with you. No, I think
yeah.
it's I here's the thing. MLB said that they were not going to investigate this, correct?
Yeah,
Something like
that's what
that.
they've said publicly, at least.
That is severely dropping the ball. Okay, that is severely if this was if this was, I'm gonna bring up a random name. The first name that comes to mind that's random is Brandon Drury of the LA Angels. Okay, no knock on Brandon Drury, but if this happened to Brandon Drury, I feel like there would be a big investigation trying to figure out what's going on if Brandon Drury's involved. But I don't want to think that there is some status. I don't know what you would call it, but Ohtani again, most marketable guy. Do they want to investigate him? Does MLB want to have that look of investigating their biggest star? But they
I
should.
I think they are investigating, but like you said, they don't want to come out and say they're investigating unless they have something because they don't want to, basically say they're investigating their cash cow right now and then potentially nothing's there. And then they have to say, oh yeah, nothing's there. And then even that causes more doubt amongst fans and reporters and whatnot.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, something's up here. It doesn't look good.
yeah. And like I said, this could easily be an epi problem. Could easily be an epi problem, and
The
what he said.
dollar figures make it to where it's not easily an epi problem for
Yes,
me. Like
yeah,
the
and
amount of money.
and
And
could easily be an epi problem.
one thing that hasn't been officially, shown yet is was this gambling on Major League Baseball games? Was it only Major League Baseball games? Was it, other sports? Who knows? I mean, that's a big part of it too. I mean, illegal gambling's illegal gambling, but if you're also illegal gambling on Major League Baseball games and potentially Major League Baseball games that you were involved in, I mean, that's why I think there's too many possibilities here that baseball can't be investigating. They just don't want to say it publicly because Otani's the golden boy right now. And up until this point, rightfully so. I mean, he's been amazing with fans, amazing with, media, highly entertaining to watch, obviously. So I get why they're trying to kind of keep it on the DL if they're actually investigating, which if they're not, they are doing more damage than harm if they're not actually looking into this,
Yeah,
or more
no
damage
doubt.
than good.
Yeah. And the one thing that we didn't mention was a few hours before this happened, Epi and Shohei were in the dugout
Yeah,
laughing,
chumming it up, having a
chumming
good
it up.
time.
Yep, doing their thing, acting like nothing was about to happen. And
And then after that game, they made Mizuhara address the whole Dodgers clubhouse and say, "There's a story that's about to come out. It's all my fault, and I have a gambling problem." Like, come on, what
I
are
will
we
never
doing
do it
here?
again.
Yeah, I am very sorry. I have much regret. Like,
Do you
come
think
on.
they're like they are definitely talking now? Like this isn't like a I'm never talking to him again. He betrayed me. Like I mean, a
The way
story can
that, yeah,
drop
the
like
way this
that.
all went down, this story didn't come out of nowhere. Obviously, if they have him address the clubhouse after the game, like they knew this story was coming out, they knew it was happening.
Yeah.
It's not all of a sudden, oh wow, the story's coming out. Quick, say something to the team. They knew what was coming down the pipeline. They honestly shouldn't have even had him in the dugout, to be honest, in retrospect,
Mhm.
especially because Otani's not pitching this year. It's not like you need him in the dugout to go talk to him at the mound if you need to. It's not a good look, regardless of the cat. I feel like some people are gonna listen to this might think we're going a little hard because of our fan affiliation, but regardless of what uniform this guy's in, I mean, it's not a good look for anybody, let alone the face of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll definitely be keeping up with that situation. And hopefully there is stuff to keep up on because this sort of thing cannot go under the rug. Somebody's got to say something, and pretty soon, you're not going to be able to ignore the media forever.
Yep.
And there's reports that he had two Dodger media people blocking his locker, and that can't be the whole season. So we will
Yep.
find out eventually. We'll probably get a shitload of no comments, that's for sure. But we will.
Yep.
We hopefully we don't hear the end of this. Anyhow, in
Yeah,
San
and
Francisco.
go for it.
You had a good transition with the bomb. I want one now too. No, uh, on to a different country in the United States, back home. The Giants, who have had a good offseason up until this point, have just kind of re-upped. They've signed Blake Snell to a 2-year deal worth, what was it, $64 million. Going into their starting rotation. Their rotation looked thin. They get the regaining National League Cy Young Award winner. He's won it twice, and they get him for a price that I don't think anybody expected him to get, but they waited it out and they got their guy.
Yeah, and I mean, and this deal does have the magical two words opt out
Opt
attached to
out.
it. So I'm sure,
Yes.
Snell's hoping yeah, he's hoping he can deal in San Francisco, not a bad ballpark to kind of prove it in. And I wouldn't be surprised if he, opts out, tries to do it all again. Maybe he falls in love with San Francisco. We'll see. But for the Giants, I mean, you got to love this deal for 2024. You got to look at it as 2024. And what's it do for you? It solidifies your rotation. It's Webb and Snell, the 1-2 in the National League Cy Young voting last year at the top of your rotation now. And that buys some time, for Hicks to acclimate to the rotation, for Harrison to kind of play a full season at the major league level. Maybe you don't rush Cobb back as much, but then down the line, when you're fully healthy, hopefully for the Giants, you've got Webb, Snell, Robbie Ray, former Cy Young winner, Alex Cobb, Kyle Harrison, and then maybe you put Hicks at the back end of that bullpen again, where he's performed really well in his career. So I think it's a great signing. It's kind of the nice bow on top to make. I mean, aside from the Dodgers, who spent over $1 billion on two dudes, the Giants spent more than anybody this offseason. They plugged a lot of holes. They didn't just spend a bunch of money on one or two or three guys. They got 3 or 4 bats for their lineup, some starters, some pitchers for their rotation. I mean, it's hard to argue anyone had a better offseason as a whole than the Giants.
Yeah, and they spent money. And they added over $400 million in guaranteed money this offseason. And they end up walking away with the best 1-2 punch, maybe in baseball, but definitely in the National League with Logan Webb and Blake Snell. Like Blake Snell, there's a lot of games won with those two guys right there. And real quick on Snell, I want to displace any notion, and there is maybe a little bit of truth to it, but for the most part, Blake Snell is always criticized for the innings, right? He doesn't throw enough innings. He walks too many guys. And that's true, right? That's true that he walks guys. He walked what the most in the National League last year. His walk rate was through the roof, understandable, but at the same time, he was unhittable the entire second half. It started off a little rocky, but unhittable. Like nobody barrels him up. Nobody routinely, consistently makes contact. He strikes guys out at a high rate. And the thing about him throwing innings, he threw 180 innings last year. Who else on the Giants besides Logan Webb last year had even 180 innings? Like nobody.
No, no
I
one, no
think
one
that
was even close.
no one was close. And I think Mason Black, who was in AAA, had like the third or second or fourth most innings on the team, and he was in AAA. So the Giants pitching, like, and this is not just a Giants thing. This is across baseball. Like it's well known that starters don't throw any innings anymore. Like that's well known. That's no surprise. So the fact that like Blake Snell is this guy that's going to throw 3 innings is hogwash. I've seen him go into the
Yeah.
sixth inning before. Like I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, if you go in the sixth, or if you think about it, 180 innings over roughly 30 starts, that's an average of 6. That's
yeah,
fine, especially
yeah,
if you're dominating. People just got to get rid of the notion that 200 innings is the cutoff for what a starter should throw.
I agree.
Steve, how many guys threw 200 innings last year, Steven, in all of baseball?
Okay, I'm going to take a guess and say 3.
5.
Okay,
One of them was right at 200. Chris Bassett had 200. Miles Mikolas had 201.1. Garrett Cole had 209. Gallen had 210. Webb had 216. That's all that pitched over 200 innings. Snell 180, just 20 below
it's
that
only
threshold.
20 innings
He
below.
was he
Yes.
was tied for 24th for most innings pitched in all of baseball at a Cy Young level. So I'll take that all day. I mean, I'll take 180 innings of Blake Snell.
Yeah.
So
And those innings are usually really good, right? Like they're really quality innings. So, yeah, no, it's an upgrade to the rotation for sure. And the Giants, like again, off season, they didn't just add talent, they added entertainment. Like this team's been boring the last few years. There's been no doubt about that. But what they added is excitement. They added a guy like Jung Hoo Lee who could bring energy. They added Soler who could hit the Coke bottle. All these guys do like unique things. Hicks throws a million miles an hour. Snell's a Cy Young winner. Robbie Ray's been a Cy Young winner. Like
Chapman's won 2 platinum gloves. He made a play the other night where I was just like, holy crap. It was
yes,
like down the line. He had to go quite a ways to the line and then get it over to first, and he got the runner. I mean,
yeah,
like you said, every guy that they've added, aside from maybe Tom Murphy, who's going to be their backup catcher, but he's a solid backup catcher. But the other guys that they've acquired, they bring excitement. They bring something unique to the ball club that fans can be excited to watch. So,
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
um, yeah, I think that's a big signing. Of course, anytime a reigning Cy Young signs somewhere, luckily for most of our listeners in Northern California, that's with the Giants this year. But this is our season preview show, Steven. Of course, there were a couple big news pieces we had to talk about to open the show. Are we ready to preview this thing?
Let's do it. Let's hop right into it.
Let's
I
hop
can't
right
wait
in.
any longer, Tyler. Please.
All right, let's go. So we're going to start out. We're going to go through division by division. We won't spend probably too much time on each one, but we're going to go with how we think how these divisions are going to end up. We'll talk some season awards, your Rookie of the Year, Cy Young MVP, and then we'll talk playoffs. Just come from a high level. We won't break down a whole bracket or anything. That's for college basketball right now. So let's start with the AL West, Steven. How do you see this thing shaking out?
Yeah, I think you could definitely put a bottom team on there. I don't see the Oakland A's doing anything. If we start off with the AL West,
I mean,
A's
their
are probably
opening day starter, Alex Wood.
Alex Wood, the opening day. Good for him. He's finally getting a chance. No, yeah, Oakland. I mean, they just didn't put enough. They made some additions, but they weren't massive additions, and they're dealing with their whole ballpark thing, which is completely affecting anything they do on the field. And they're going to be historically bad. There's no doubt about it. And I think they're going to be pretty bad until they leave for Vegas in 2028 or whenever the hell that is. But you know, they do have some guys, right? They do have a few guys. Zach Geloff is impressive. I've tried to get him in a few fantasy teams, but I was unable to. Langolier is the cat. Like, there's some guys there. So I would put them at the bottom. Um,
I think we probably have the same bottom 2 teams in the same
Angels,
order.
you're thinking
Yeah.
that too? Angels, probably the Angels too. I mean, again, it seemed like this would be one of those off seasons where they randomly make another splash. It seems like they always have that. It could have been Snell. There's just nothing in the lineup that is interesting to me. So I think another down year in Anaheim is what I'm projecting. Um, and then this is where it kind of gets interesting a little bit, and I'm sure it's kind of interesting for you too. Houston, Seattle, Texas. Like, are we still sold on Houston winning the division? Because they've had the division for years. Are they going to regain their? I guess. I mean, there's some worry last year that with the Rangers winning the Rangers kind of had a bad last week, is what I'm saying, and they got in, and then Houston won the division. But I think you could flip flop Seattle and Texas. I know Texas still has a really good lineup, but what
So
do
are
you
you
think?
saying Houston? Are you saying Houston wins?
I am saying Houston wins. I'm saying they're still there. I worry a little bit about their pitching, but not a
Yeah.
lot,
All
if that
right.
makes
So
sense.
I'm going Seattle, Houston, Texas.
Wow. Okay. So the World Series winners you have finishing in third place.
Yeah, I mean that's about where they finished last year. They were almost there last year. We'll talk about playoff teams a little bit later. I think all three of those teams make the playoffs. A little preview for our playoff preview. But yeah, I think Seattle, puts it together. I think I might have chose them to win last year, so hopefully I'm not jinxing them again. I just think they have a lot of great young talent led by, Julio Rodriguez, who, people are going to doubt until they do it and win the division. And so I think this could be the year where they win the West.
They have some arms too. Like,
Yeah.
and I can't stress enough how important fantasy baseball is for people trying to get into baseball and trying to learn these players. Because I've done way too many drafts. Newsflash, we have another draft tonight.
Yeah.
You and I are actually in the same draft, which it's like every night is this draft. And I keep seeing like Brian Wu, right? There's a few guys that stand out, and I'm blanking on the other name that they have. Their
Logan
ace,
Gilbert,
Logan Gilbert,
Luis Castillo,
Castillo,
George Kirby.
George Kirby is who I was thinking of. Yeah, so they have arms. They have a really good rotation.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I'm underestimating the Mariners, but I have the Rangers second still, and I have the Mariners third. But I find that to be a very interesting race.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's those three teams. Like you said, you can kind of put them in any order and not sound crazy right now. So it's just a matter of playing the 162 and seeing where they fall. But I'm out of the gate. I'm going Seattle Mariners.
Seattle Mariners. Okay, yeah. I mean
But
that I can't wait to look back at this. Did we look back at it last year? I can't remember.
I don't think we did. Maybe we should before our next episode. We can go back and look and maybe see if any big misses or big hits that were kind of bold choices.
Yeah, good idea. Um,
Um, so now we can go to the AL Central. This is one of those divisions. I think last week I joked around that I would have Hunter, my son, just pick five names out of a hat and I'll put them in that order. I didn't have time to do that, but this is one of those divisions for sure. Except for maybe, I mean, kind of starting at the bottom like we did with the West. I have the White Sox pretty entrenched in last place in the Central. Steven, is that where you've got the
yep.
Sox?
Last place. Don't see them, anywhere else, to be honest. Um, that they're rebuilding. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They're rebuilding. They traded out away Dylan Cease. Um, there's still talent there that they should trade. Like, I don't know why Luis Robert, they're hanging on to him for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, no, last place. I mean, they're probably one of the most disappointing franchises just because of the talent they did have at one point, and it's weird to
Yeah,
see them not there anymore. But last
yeah,
place, 100
yeah.
losses. I'll even say that. Screw it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the trade of Cease, and not really getting much major league talent in return for him. That's a future investment that they made with that trade. So I could see them definitely losing 100. Just to kind of not spend too much time, especially on a division like this, I went Twins, Royals, Tigers, Guardians, White Sox. So I think most people might have the Guardians higher up. I feel like it's the Twins division to lose still. I could see anybody really winning this thing outside of Chicago. But, I think they have the experience, which I think in a division like this can go a long way. But I think the Royals, they've got a good young core. They made some good additions, as did the Tigers. So I have them both hopping the Guardians this year. Especially Guardians might trade Bieber at some point, which won't help them in the standings. So that's what I'm going with in the Central, Steven. How about you?
Yeah, so I have White Sox last, and then my fourth place team is actually the Tigers. I still think they're kind of a ways away. They have nice position player pieces, some guys coming up that are going to play every day. Um, I have Cleveland third, and I have Kansas City second. I
Okay.
like the additions they made, and I also feel like they have a brand. Like all these teams are trying to fight to find their identities. They're trying, oh, yeah, we always talk about, baseball, there's too many carbon copies of each other. Kansas City has some like diversity with their like skill set. And I feel like they're kind of a fun team, to be honest, and they have a chance to be a really exciting and fun group. There's some veterans with Perez, and then there's some speed with, and overall ability with Bobby Witt Jr. And then there's, you got some outfielders there with, Melendez and a few other guys. Pasquantino's coming back from an injury. They made some free agent signings in their rotation. They have Cole Reagans, who had a good year last year. They brought in Seth Lugo and Michael Waka. This could be one of those teams I could see them in it for a little bit, and then all of a sudden get something at the deadline, and then maybe I don't want to say a playoff team, but we know that division sucks. Um, but I do have Cleveland, or I do have Cleveland in third, and then Kansas City in second, and then Minnesota in first. I agree with the Twins. Um, there's not much competition there for them. Um, they did end up subtracting Polanco and Sonny Gray, but they're gonna have a full year of Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, who Lopez they got last year. So
And they'll have Anthony DeSclafani coming off
they
the
will.
IL at some
Anthony
point.
DeSclafani will be there. That is a huge get for them. I think that's bigger than any get any team has made this offseason, getting DeSclafani, to the point where I didn't know he was even a Twin until maybe 5 days after it happened. And I saw like the roster, and I was like, he got traded to the Twins? I thought he was with Seattle, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so we were pretty close to matching there. The Tigers, Guardians in third and fourth were the one where I was kind of debating over. So
didn't Kansas City start last season like 0-9 or something? Somebody did.
yeah, something like that.
So watch them do that again, and just like April's just not looking good for my prediction, but we'll see.
Yeah, so then moving over to the East, historically one of the most competitive divisions in baseball, the AL East. It's loaded. How do you have the East shaping up this year, my friend?
It's loaded, but I don't see a path for the Red Sox. They were involved in some discussion for like a starting pitcher. Like I heard them mixed in with Snell talks. They were mixed in with Nola talks, and different talks.
They've been mixed in with Montgomery talks.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. I don't think it's there. They just don't have enough pitching, and I don't think they have enough lineup depth either. It's kind of a who's who. Trevor Story had a good spring though. That's one thing. He hasn't been healthy, but um, one guy can't do everything. Um, they also have Rafael Devers. He's another guy, but the rest of their lineup I think is a little underwhelming. So I would put them fifth. And then this is where like, oh, I
Let's
think
start at the top. Do we have the same team winning? Do you have the Orioles winning the division?
Orioles. I do. I do. I have them winning. I saw a picture on Instagram,
Yeah.
and it said that they have like a factory that makes all like a factory of that makes the young white guy Jackson Holiday type looking guys. Like they have like three of those on their team. Um but I like their pitching staff. It's kind of underrated. And
I
they're
mean,
gonna
they
hit home
added
runs.
Corbin Burns.
Yeah,
I
Corbin
mean,
Burns
they
new.
won 100 games last year and they bring in Corbin Burns. I don't really think they lost anybody that I can think of. So, I mean, if you're adding a perennial, Cy Young contender from whatever league he's in to your rotation,
Yeah. Yeah,
gotta like
I mean
that.
it's big. And they're going to hit a lot of home runs too. Like this team has power. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Holiday when if he starts with the team, I think he will. Um
Mullins,
Mullins, like
Mountcastle.
yeah, Santander, like it's a good lineup. It's a good lineup, but again, the young pitching is something that you get excited about, but there's also a downside to it. And if they were to fumble a little bit, I think that's maybe where it would turn. But they also got a guy like Corbin Burns because of that concern. So I would put them at the top. And then honestly, I think you could put New York, Tampa Bay, and Toronto in whatever spots you want. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I went Toronto, Tampa, New York
Okay.
for my 2, 3, 4.
Interesting. I have Toronto, New York, Tampa. So
Yeah, I mean, I think New York is going to miss Garrett Cole for those first 3 months or so of the season.
not
Their
signing Snell was a mistake.
yeah, Nestor Cortez is their opening day starter, and there were points last year where they weren't even comfortable with him in their rotation, which, you know, tells you a bit about the current status of their rotation without their Cy Young Award winner to lead it off. And I got Carlos Rodon, who's, who knows what version of him will show up. I don't think he had a very good spring. The Rays, they don't have a lot of, they have a lot of exciting guys, but not a lot of name recognition outside of maybe like a Rosarena. They traded Glass now. They had some people leave. The Rays are just always that one of those teams that just find a way to stay competitive. They know how to develop and just bring in the next guy while, while staying with the Joneses in the AL East. So that's why I kind of gave them the nod over the Yankees. And the Blue Jays, I just think they have, a solid lineup, great depth, and a solid top of the rotation with guys like Gossman and Barrios. Gossman's going to miss. I think they're hoping just a start or two to start the year, so not as bad of a blow as Cole. And then they have better rotation help to kind of hold the hold things steady until Gossman's back. So that was my logic there with the East.
Yeah, Tampa Bay never looks good on paper. And then it's
Yeah,
like you blink and then 162 games go by and they're like playing in the ALDS. It's insane. Uh
yeah,
I I put Toronto too because I like the middle of their lineup, especially with Springer and Bichette and Guerrero, and they added Justin Turner to the mix. Justin Turner's old. He's like 40, 39, 40, but like
professional hitter.
he's a professional hitter and he did it last year. It's a good park for him to hit at. I'd be interesting to see what he does. And, Tampa for the same reasons. They did lose Glass now. I mean, you'd probably hope Franco's never going to see the field again. So there's different obstacles that they have to face, but they always have young players that come up. And the Yankees, like, it's kind of a behemoth lineup with Soto in there. It looks so much better than it did with that protection for Aaron Judge. And then, you know, this might be a hot take, but I'm booking on a bounce back from Rizzo and Stanton. And if you could have
Yeah,
that, like that's a lineup, you don't want to face. And Rizzo, in
yeah,
his case, he was like concussed for a lot of the year last year. He was playing with a concussion. Um, Somebody dropped the ball on that. Um, but and Stanton, hit some homers this spring. Um,
yeah. He had a monster 3 home run game the other night. I think they said it was over 1,300 feet in home runs
that's
in
crazy.
one night.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean the issue with me with the Yankees is not the lineup at all. It's all the rotation. I mean, yeah, you're going to put up runs, but so is a rotation. The rotation's going to give up runs, and their opponents are going to get to hit at Yankee Stadium too. So, like you said, I could see 2, 3, and 4 going any way. I just think out of the issues that are facing each team, that's why I put the Yankees in fourth. I just think they're going to struggle. Even when Cole's back, the rotation behind him isn't that strong, at least on paper. I mean, they did add Stroman. I'll give them that. I think Stroman will be a good one. I was kind of surprised they didn't name him the opening day starter out of that crew. That's healthy, but
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree
that's
completely. That's going to be an interesting division to watch. I'm going to be looking for them, and they're going to hit home runs too. Baltimore and New York, who's going to have more homers? That's going to be the question for me.
yeah. All right, should we just keep it on the East Coast and move over to the better league, the National League?
Let's keep it
And
on the
they're
East Coast.
basically
What
the
is?
same now. There's
Yeah.
not really any difference, but
Do they call it the senior circuit or what is it called?
I think for a while it was called the Senior Circuit. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because
but
it's
I think
older.
now without the DH, uh, but yeah, so we got the NL East. I think this might be one where we're pretty close. I feel like there's at least to me, a pretty evident flow to this division. I got the Braves winning, Phillies, Marlins, Mets, Nationals.
Okay. Yeah, I have the
You have the Mets in
yes.
third.
I think I had the Marlins in third. Or no, I think I had the Marlins in fourth and I had the Mets in third. Um, Braves like slam dunk, no doubt. Phillies slam dunk, no doubt. Like they're gonna be top two with Atlanta having kind of that slight lead, I think. And Nationals, no doubt, probably the last team. And one thing about the Nationals, they have some young talent, but I feel like they're developing a lot of role players and not building blocks, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
CJ Abrams and Keibert Ruiz, like they're good players, but they're not like who you build your franchise around. And I think that's who they were hoping they would be, but they're not. Um, the Marlins, they're going to be without Alcantara. Their lineup is suspect. Um, but I think I think they'll be better than the Mets. That's what I'm gonna. I don't think they'll be good, but I think they'll be better than the Mets. Because they have a lot riding on young guys too. With their catcher, I'm blanking on his name. I bet Brett Beatty's gonna play every day. So like, there's some guys that we'd have to figure out on that team. But um, I think I would have the Mets fourth and the Marlins third because I just don't think the Mets did enough. Um,
They did just add JD Martinez.
they
I mean,
did.
that's part of the breaking news. I'm not saying that should influence your standings. Just, it's something new that happened since we last recorded as well. He was one of the last guys that needed to sign
Yeah,
of note.
I think I mean, I feel like teams that add Jose Quintana have, a spot specific for Jose Quintana. Like they could hide him,
Yeah, the
in
Mets rotation is rough.
yes, it is. Severino's a question mark. He hasn't pitched in what, 2 years? Something like
Yeah.
that. And then you have Mania, who, looked good in a long relief role at times with the Giants last year, but um he cut his hair, and that's an issue. No. Um, but
One of the crazier things to me about this division is the Phillies are a really good team. And I never once thought about putting them above the Braves because the
no.
Braves are that much better than not just the Phillies, but than most teams in baseball, really. Um, the Phillies could probably win almost any other division except maybe the NL West, I think. You could put them in there and yeah, they could potentially win that division.
And
I
they're
don't
still World Series favorites.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I think that they'll be a playoff team for sure. I think they'll probably walk pretty handily to the top wild card spot, but it's the Braves division to lose. I think a lot would have to go wrong for Atlanta to not win the NL East.
yeah, and here's the scary thing about Atlanta. Um, their pitching is like Chris Sale. When you don't have pressure on Chris Sale, and what is he going to be, the third or fourth starter? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's no pressure on that guy. I mean, he could easily go off and bounce back, when he's healthy. Um, and he's not the guy you would want to see in a game three. Um, when you're down 2 games to nothing, like something like
yeah.
that.
I mean, he's one of
He's
those guys. If the Braves have a solid lead going into the last couple weeks of the season, you just rest him up, say, get ready for game three when whoever we face in the DS, make sure you're right and let's do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good lineup. I mean, they're just set. I mean, they are set. They added Jared Kelnick. They added Adam Duvall. Um, they're they're set. Their team is just so stacked. I mean, it's insane. It's insane how their lineup, I mean, works. When you have, Ozuna and Harris and Murphy as kind of like your secondary pieces, like that's a lot of teams' best players right there. And they're Atlanta's secondary pieces. So they're
Yep.
set.
Yep. All right. Well, should we pivot to the Central? The Centrals, we kind of talked about it last episode. The Centrals
Yep.
are kind of a division where throw them in
Yep.
a bag.
Get your son.
Um,
Get your son to pick it.
yeah. Get in here. So yeah, I'll give you my five just because they can go in any order. I think there's probably two teams that most people might see at the top. I'm going Reds,
Ooh.
Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates.
Okay. Um, I actually I have the Cubs still taking kind of a lead on that division. And then I have Cincinnati, and then I have St. Louis, then Milwaukee, then Pittsburgh. So what do
Okay.
we do? Just swap the
Swap the Cubs and the Reds.
Cubs
Yeah,
and
I
the
mean,
Reds.
I think on paper the Cubs are the better team to open the season. I think the Reds, they just have kind of that young, energetic factor going for them where, last year they played some really good ball. I think they were really close to making the playoffs last year. And this isn't a division where I see anyone running away with it. And so I think this could be the year where, maybe the Reds, I won't say fully put it together, but put it together enough to finish over Chicago.
Yeah. And looking at this division, honestly, we talk about the AL Central. AL Central is so much worse than this division. Like
Oh, yeah.
this division actually has some young players in it that could make differences on the like I like the Reds what they have with their pitching. And they have, Lodello and Andrew Abbott and different guys in the rotation. And they have some position players, McLean and De La Cruz and those guys. St. Louis, though, I don't know how much better they got. The rotation is something that they wanted to upgrade, and they did it kind of
Ish.
old-ish.
Yeah,
Um,
with what Gray
Lynn
and Lynn.
and Lynn gets like lit up a lot. Which I'm
Yeah,
interested
Lynn's
by
like a total
anybody's.
feast or famine guy. He's either gonna deal or he's gonna get lit up. It
Yeah,
seems.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think Pittsburgh, like, they have talent, but like they're not there yet. I wonder what Paul Skeens is going to do, but as long as St. Louis has Goldschmidt and Arenado playing at a high level, and then you add in who's the young shorts Mason Wynn, and then you have like that young group with Wynn, and then it's um first player ever older than me, our first player ever older
Jordan
than Jordan
Walker.
Walker, and then I think Gorman is still pretty young. He had a good year. Like there's
Yeah.
some guys on this team, and then Brandon Crawford's a difference maker.
I I mean, I think he's a solid guy for that role that they
Yeah,
got him in for sure to like show Mason Wynn how to, handle the big leagues, how to take the ups and the downs and the physical demand of playing shortstop for a full season.
yeah. The rotation though is
Um,
just weird. Like Michaelis, Gibson, Lynn, Steven Matz. Like that it's weird. I don't
yeah.
I was shocked when you said Michaelis threw 200 innings last year. I wouldn't have never even known.
Yeah. Yes, it's an interesting division for sure. I'm just kind of looking at these team names, but yeah, I'm same with St. Louis. I was just like, as long as they have Goldschmidt and Arenado, like I don't see them not being at least a 500 team, and I think that puts them middle of the pack in this division. So that's why I kind of use them as the baseline at third. Brewers, I feel like, they lost some guys. They lost Craig Counsell even. Um, and there's just a lot of even with their stadium issues, kind of not they're like Oakland light. They're kind of the next in line if they have to get to that spot for a whole, stadium slash potential relocation thing. So I just
Yeah.
think they're kind of trending the wrong way right now.
They have
And
some guys
so yeah.
that they should still trade. I don't know what they did this out like. So they traded Burns, right? But they did that after they signed Reese Hoskins. So it's like let's sign Reese Hoskins to play first, and then let's trade Corbin Burns, and then I mean they
I wonder
still
if
have guys.
Hoskins feels a little bamboozled there. Like, yeah, I'll come. Let's make a run at this. Oh, you traded our ace. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. And the rotation's not good. I mean, Jacob Junis is their like third starter. Um, and they got guys to trade. Like Freddie Peralta probably has value. And, there's been rumors surrounding Willie Adames. And if Hoskins has a good year, maybe he's gone at the deadline. I think Yelich is probably going to stay, but, um, Contreras, the catcher, is one of the best catchers in baseball. And then they have some young guys that are good, like Sal Frelick. I've heard so much about him. The outfielder Jackson Churno, I think his name's Churno, and then Garrett Mitchell. So they've got guys, but um, they also got guys that they still need to sell off. So it's kind of like a situation like the White Sox, but a better version. That's Captain
Yeah.
Obvious right there. Yeah, they're like the White Sox, but a better version.
Well, yeah. So I think we can move to probably the division most of our listeners want to hear
Yes.
us talk about, the NL West. I think the bookends on this division are probably the same for the both of us. Dodgers in the
Yeah.
penthouse, Rockies in the cellar.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to finish last. They're going to lose over 100. No.
Yeah.
And I would be interested to see what Vegas says about the Dodgers. No, I won't make that joke now. But the Rockies last place, not much there. They always randomly play good at home. Um which and the thing about the NL West is like these teams are all these teams I think are dangerous. Even the Rockies. Like and the Rockies are dangerous because of where they play. They play at Coors Field. It's a crazy place to play, and no team wants to go in there for a weekend series. No team. And their pitching is exhausted by the end of it. So that's why I think the Rockies, like, you don't write them off completely. Um, I mean, I think the Giants did a lot more than a fourth place, being a fourth place team. And I think San Diego, I mean, I think
They lost
Dodgers and
Soto.
Diamondbacks one
They
and
added
two.
Cease.
Yeah, their rotations good, but it's also like you could see it falling apart. I don't trust their bullpen. Um, and outside of the guys that they have, so they have Bogarts, Tatis, Machado. Those are the big guys. And then, they don't really have a third baseman. They don't really have a center fielder. I don't know anything about their catching situation. Um, and then I guess the rotation is interesting too because Darvish, Musgrove, um,
Cease.
Cease. I don't know who else. Michael King. I know they traded him. They
Yeah.
got him in the
King will
Soto
probably be
trade.
their fourth or fifth. He'll be in the rotation.
Yeah. Um, I think you flip a coin between Giants, Padres. I
Well,
do.
I'm taking your coin and I'm putting the Giants in second. I think they did enough
Ooh, in second?
to improve their roster enough to finish second. I think it's going to be really close between them and the Diamondbacks. If the Diamondbacks finish second, I'm not going to be surprised at all. But I mean, you got 2 in the Cy Young at the top of their rotation. Their lineup is greatly improved. Jung Hoo Lee, Chapman, Soler. There's going to be a lot of consistency in the lineup now and it's not just consistency for the sake of consistency. It's going to be consistency because they have guys that can hold those jobs down and perform at least at a strong level. The Diamondbacks, I think they kind of caught lightning in a bottle a bit last year. I do think they're really good. Don't get me wrong. National League champions. They got young guys like Corbin Carroll to rally
Yeah.
around. They did sign Eduardo Rodriguez to add to their rotation. They got Jock Peterson to teach all the fun card games to the kids. Um,
That's crazy.
so, I do think, like I said, I think it'll be close. I think the coin flip, though, is more Giants and Diamondbacks for second and third than Giants and Padres for third and fourth.
Did I see somewhere that they were gonna sign Tommy Pham, Arizona?
Oh my gosh. Put him and Jock next to each other.
Yeah.
They can co-commission their fantasy
And
football
for those
league.
that don't know, Tommy Pham, everybody knows this, but Tommy Pham slapped Jock Peterson before a game one time, and that would be so ironic if they ever become teammates. So, um, no, I don't think I did see that, but I saw that he was gonna maybe sign somewhere. But yeah,
No,
I'm.
last rumor was Padres talking to
That's what it
Fam.
was. That's what it was. Wrong NOS team. Um, I'm still high on Arizona. Just because I think, like I said about the Royals, Arizona has like an identity, and I think teams with identities like stick with their identity and don't really go outside the box, and they just stick with it for the course of a season. And I think Arizona's like that. Um, Corbin Carroll and Uriel and Marte, and they have a nice kind of cast of characters. Some platoon guys like Peterson, and then you could, partner him with someone and Thomas, and like it's still a good young group, and I think they're going to be good for a while. Um, and I think the thing I like most about them is that they knew they had to address the rotation because remember, after Gallen and Kelly, like in the postseason, we're like, who's going to pitch for this team?
Yeah.
And like Brandon Fat, I don't know if that's how you say his name. Brandon Fat stepped up big time and they got that guy with Eduardo Rodriguez. And it might not be the sexiest name, but what I see in this situation, it's like maybe it's a guy that they scouted for a long time and they really like and they feel like they can maximize something and go for it. Like, even he's not Snell, he's not Montgomery, he's not any of those guys, but he's someone who's consistent, I think, enough for them. Um,
He's
but
really consistent. I mean, we've talked about fantasy a few times. He's like a kind of a low key starter that I like to get either on the cheap or late in the draft because he's going to give you consistency. You know, he'll give you 6, 7 innings pretty regularly, not get.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. You froze on me for a second there. Yeah, no, I agree. And what they added to their lineup, like we talked about, oh, there's their contact, their contact, their contact. They added some power too. Peterson, Suarez. So I think they're set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said, I'm maybe a little homerism there, but
Mhm.
I am that Snell signing kind of put me over the top to get a little excited about this Giants season. So
They put you over the top.
there we go. Yep. All right, so that's how we see the regular season winding up for Major League Baseball, and along with the standings come the awards. So let's run through some of predictions for our awards, Stephen. And so should we start with Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, we could do Rookie of the Year for sure. I'm very excited about Rookie of the Year.
All right, so maybe let's each throw out our names for each, and we can talk about maybe some others and why we chose our pick, maybe. So who do you have winning the AL Rookie of the Year?
Okay, so for the AL Rookie of the Year, I know it's kind of a field that, might be a little crowded, and I know there's a favorite. Okay, there's a favorite in this, and everybody's talking about him, but I'm gonna go a different route, and I'm gonna say Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers is gonna win the American League Rookie of the Year. Look at the spring that this guy's having. And there's a good class. I'm sure you're gonna bring up someone that I thought of taking, but he's got like 6 homers this spring. And he's going to be a weapon for Bruce Bochy. He was a first round draft pick, fourth overall pick in 2023. So he's a fast mover through the system. He's played 5 games in AAA last year, so not a lot of AAA experience. But when he did play there, he had a over 1,000 OPS. Flew through AA, played 12 games there, hit 400. Spent most of the year in high A ball where he hit 330. So I mean, he's just getting better, it seems, and just killing it in spring training. 6 homers, 19 ribbies. Got a 1,200 OPS. I mean, I think he's going to tear up pitching this year. But he's my pick, Wyatt Langford.
I'm also going with the Texas outfielder, but I'm going with Evan Carter.
Okay, yeah.
Played only 23 games last year in the regular season for the World Champions. Had a 1.6 WAR in just 23 games. Played really well. Hit 300 in the postseason. I think maybe just that little extra kind of experience of already being there kind of gives him the nod for me over Langford. I did think about putting Langford there as well. I think they're putting Langford on the opening day roster, but I think he might have some more kind of growing pains than Evan Carter over the course of the full season. Long term, I'd want Langford for sure, but this year for Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Evan Carter. I'm assuming the favorite you're talking about was Jackson Holiday
Yeah.
that neither of us chose.
We did not choose Jackson Holiday for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that he might not open the season on the team, which I mean, if he does or he doesn't, I think he'll probably be up there sooner than later. Um, sometimes though, like being the guy that you're expected to just show up and win Rookie of the Year, it's a lot of pressure on a young kid. I mean, maybe not as much on him because he's grown up in major league clubhouses his whole life with his dad being Matt Holliday. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but we got to mix it up a little bit. We can't just take the favorites in all these categories, Steven.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. We got to be unique. And by the way, I am older than Evan Carter.
Of course you are.
It's gonna get to the point where we're doing this podcast like 5 years down the line, and I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be like a guy that's like 5 years younger than me. I'm gonna go, Tyler, I'm older than him.
Well, guess what? I'm a spoiler for you. I'm older than every player that we've talked about today. Um, really quick, Max Scherzer. Now I'm not. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
so National League Rookie of the Year. Who are we going with, Steven?
I teased it a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna go with probably the easy pick in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I think it's gonna be one of those years where he has a good year, and maybe there's not a lot of people giving him a run for his money, but his first year in the States, and I will say, I do not believe that players from other major leagues should be considered rookies. I think it's an insult to those leagues. I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't sit well with the Japanese league for Yamamoto to be considered a rookie in the American. Like just because it's his first year in Major League Baseball, he's been an established Major League player, just in a
Yeah.
different country. So I don't consider him a rookie, but MLB does, and I think he's going to have a good year for the Dodgers. And despite the outing that we talked about earlier, so I'm going to go with him as my rookie of the year pick.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those guys in the National League, especially this year. You've got Yamamoto, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Shota Imanaga for the Cubs, who are, they've all played the highest level of professional baseball in other countries. Um, I almost went Jung-Hoo Lee, but then I kind of had in your mind, the argument you just made. So I went with Jackson Chourio. I'm not sure if I'm
Mm,
pronouncing that last name right, but the outfielder for the Brewers, really young but five-tool player. He's going to get a lot of playing time with Milwaukee, kind of with how we talked about the state of that franchise. So he's gonna get the reps. I don't see why they would want to send him down at this point. Five-tool guy, and so I think he'll put together a solid season in the heart of that Brewers lineup. And so I'm going with Jackson Chourio.
yeah, that's a good pick. Guys like him are kind of why I don't count the Brewers out right away. But
Yeah, some of those young guys, they could take the world by storm, right?
yeah, no doubt. He's one of their highly ranked prospects, and I believe I saw him in a winter league lineup this year, and he played really well. In Venezuela or Dominican, I have to check to see where he was, but um, and I guess one of the other ones I was debating was Pete Crow Armstrong was another name that I saw.
Um,
And I brought up Pete Crow Armstrong because his mom is the mom from Little
from
Big League.
Little Big League, yeah,
Did you know that Pete Crow Armstrong's mom is the mom in Little Big League? Underrated flick, by the way. Just
yeah.
a little bit.
Oh, it's one of I grew up watching that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the most surprising part to me when I heard that was that like, oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think we had some connectivity, so we might have cut each other off a little bit there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching Little Big League. I think the surprising part to me when I heard that was that like she has a kid who's only like in his low 20s because that movie came out like 35 years ago now at this point, probably 30. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cool little tie-in. Too bad he's not on the Twins, but
Yeah.
um,
I think people just looked older, like way back when.
yeah, I mean, I saw a thing not related to baseball really quick, but just like what a 29-year-old looked like on like TV in the movies like 20 years ago. And it was like George Costanza was supposed to be 29,
Yeah.
and like even like that version of Jason Alexander nowadays, he'd be like a mid 30-year-old at,
Yeah.
at minimum. Um,
And Sparky Anderson, we see the pictures of him in his late 30s.
oh gosh, yeah. Yep. So yeah, well, let's pivot to AL Cy Young. Let's see, I'll go first since I've kind of been putting that on you. I'm going Corbin Burns, new spot, leading one of the best teams in the American League. 90% certain it's a walk year for him. So I think he puts it all together and leads the Orioles just fine to the AL East and himself to an American League Cy Young.
Good pick. You know, Gosman's going to be out to start the year, right? So I think he's a guy that's kind of like had it at his door. Like he's been knocking on the door to get a Cy Young in the American League, and he hasn't gotten it. And Cole's going to miss some time, so um, yeah, no, I think it makes sense to go with Corbin Burns. I will go with Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers, sleeper
There we
pick,
go.
but I've tried to get him in almost every fantasy league. Oh, did I just show my card? Did I show my cards? No. 27 years old, and he's from Hayward, California, or born in Hayward, grew up in Arizona, I think. But Hayward born, and good year last year, and not a lot of time. So I could see him climbing the ladder very quickly. Not a
That's a
lot of
good
slam
sleeper
dunk
pick.
options though.
No, no, no. I've had him in. I've him in a couple like keeper like legacy leagues, and like every year when it starts up again, I get more offers on Tariq Skubal than anybody else. So great pick there. National League Cy Young. This is one where I think I went with probably the odds-on favorite, just because I think he should have probably had more consideration last year. I'm going Spencer Strider in the National League.
Okay, high strikeout guy on a great
I,
team.
yeah, I do think that, the team doesn't really make a candidate in these categories, but if you're pitching on a team and you lead them to like a great record, a division, win, a division title, I think that carries a little bit of weight. And so that's why I'm going with Strider this year. I was surprised he wasn't even a final three guy last year, but that's who I'm going with.
I thought he was winning. I think we did a podcast. I'll have to look back mid-season maybe where like we had him winning it, which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy to think. I don't know what happened in those final weeks.
You're going
I'm gonna
glass now, aren't you?
yeah no, and I didn't even think about it, and I'm mad that I didn't even think about it. Damn it. Um, Logan Webb. Logan
Yeah, you
Webb
think
is
so?
yeah. I'm gonna go with
You're not
Webb.
scared off by the shaky spring?
No, I think he knows how to pitch. And I think he'll be fine. I think he gets his first. And I also think that he gets his first All-Star nod. He has not been an All-Star yet. He's
Yeah,
been
that's
snubbed.
insane.
Last year was insane. He was snubbed. Cobb ended up getting the call, which was deserved too. But I'm gonna go with Logan Webb. This is his year to finally get it. He's got a good infield behind him defensively with Chapman at third and I guess probably to start the season Ahmed at short, which is great infield defense. So I think he's gonna have a great year and good outfield defense too.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I hope you're right, Steven.
Yes, Glass now sleeper pick.
And then to tie a bow on the postseason, they announced it in the postseason, but for the that regular season awards, we got the MVPs. Um, Let me find my doc. Oh, I lost it. American League. I'm going Julio Rodriguez. I talked about my predictions for the Mariners earlier. I think compared to some of the other top teams, like he's the tried and true like leader of the Mariners, and if they win the division, it's him leading them there. You've got your Judge and Soto on the Yankees. Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez on the Astros. Whatever the hell is going on in the Central. So I think Rodriguez would be, especially if my prediction for the Mariners is right. It's because Julio Rodriguez led them there. So I'm giving him my nod for American League MVP.
Okay, yeah. I see your strategy there, going with the guy that is the guy. I'm gonna go with the guy that I'm gonna go with the cheapest pick I could possibly do. I'll go with the lowest odds in Vegas right now. I'm gonna go with Juan Soto. I think
The
he
lowest odds in
or
Vegas,
sorry, the lowest odds in Vegas.
or the best odds, the,
The
the
best odds in
favorite, you'll
Vegas.
call it,
I'll
maybe.
go with the favorite. I'll just say I don't know
Let
anything
me
about.
call let me call Ippy and see what they would call it.
Oh, what does that translate to? No, but I think Soto is Soto is the guy in New York. I don't want to say more so than Judge. Judge is Mr. New York, and he's gonna have a good year. He's gonna hit his 30 or 40. But Soto adds so much explosiveness to this lineup, and people are always talking about, oh, he's gonna dominate with the short porch. Yes, but also he uses the whole field. He hits
Yeah.
opposite field home runs. He hits balls to right center and center. He uses the whole field. So I mean, and those American League East ballparks are, I guess excluding Baltimore now because they moved left field to Timbuktu. But I mean, it's a good hitter's environment, and I think Soto's going to have a good year, and he's going to take all of that momentum into his next free agent contract, which could be
Yeah,
record breaking
which
somehow.
yeah, I agree. I think his next contract's going to be massive. All righty, and then to finish it up here, the National League MVP. I'm going with the favorite in this one just because I don't see anyone else, especially if he can replicate what he did last year. I'm going Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, we talked about the Braves a lot just because they're so talented, so good. Um, and I've given him the nod. I mean, was he 40-70 last year? Maybe he goes 40-80. Who knows with that guy? So fun to watch, leading one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah. Well, now that he's got his translator off of his payroll, I think he's gonna have an even better year. No, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna agree with you. Enough Ohtani jokes for today. We're done. Uh, I'm going to agree. So for the first time, I think we're agreeing on something. I am going with Acuna.
Ugh.
Again, same reasons. Don't see him slowing down. He loves to play. He's on a good team that's going to help with the old voters that count that in, and I think it should be counted in to some extent. But no signs of slowing down for that guy. He's just got the flair. He's got the ability. He's got the power. He does everything well, and I think he's going to be the National League MVP until someone unseats him. Who can unseat him? I don't know. Corbin Carroll, Mookie Betts. Those are kind of the guys that I'm looking at. Maybe someone on his team, Olsen, perhaps Freeman, but I still
Maybe
see it.
Ohtani once he's pitching in a
Ohtani once
future
he's
year.
pitching. Yep. And a big reason why Ohtani I don't think we'll get is because he is DHing unless he hits
Yeah,
74 homers. But yeah, no, I'll go with Cunha too. We agree.
we agree. All right. Well, so that wraps up our award predictions. And then just real quick, we don't want to spend too much time on it because it's 6 months away. But the postseason, Steven, what's it look like to you? Who's coming out of the American League?
I think coming out of the American League, I'm going to say it is the year of the Baltimore Orioles. I want to see those young guys at the biggest stage. I want to see, I think it's good for them to get into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs at a young age because, like we saw with some of the Giants rookies and young players they had during their run, like the Posies and the Bumgarners, like it becomes an expectation. And I feel like an experience of the Orioles getting into the playoffs and those guys, as they're young, is going to be only beneficial for them down the line. So I see them in the American League. And then in the National League, my matchup against them is we just talked about his team, the Atlanta Braves, Acuna's team.
I have the same World Series matchup, the
That's
Braves and the Orioles.
we did not choreograph this.
We did not. All of our predictions on this episode, we didn't know each other's predictions.
Yeah.
But really quick, the American League playoff teams, I've got, of course, the Mariners, Twins, Orioles for winning their division, and I've got the Blue Jays, Astros, and Rangers. So I had the Rangers in third, but I still have them making the playoffs. National League, Dodgers, Reds, Braves for winning their division. Phillies, Giants, Diamondbacks in the wild card spots. But yeah, dude, I got the Braves and the Orioles. I do think if I had to say who wins that series right now, I'd probably say the Braves, but a lot can change in the next 6.5, 7 months, which is when the World Series will actually be. They're not just the regular season wrapping up, but Braves and Orioles, look at us go.
Yeah,
Who,
there you
who would
go.
you have winning? Would you have the Braves? Or are you going O's?
I would have the Braves too. I would have the Braves too. I would have them winning. And I don't have the wild card teams. I did not do that part of the homework assignment. But you did hear my division winners, so that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of the teams we have in the World Series are division winners. So no wild cards in the World Series this year.
Yep. Absolutely. I think we shut it down again.
We shut it down.
Yep. We did that. That was good. It took a while, but hopefully everybody listening at this point is still listening. Spencer's listening.
Yeah, Spencer, thank you very much. Hopefully this was fast enough for you, my friend. Now that the regular season is going to be upon us, we'll try to get one out as regularly as we can.
Yes. Now that Steven
Um,
is graduating college, let's go.
well, I'm waiting until I see you on that stage, my friend. We'll see. But yeah, congratulations on that, man. I know it's just a couple months away in your final spring break.
Yes.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay safe.
What wouldn't you do?
I'll tell you off the
Okay. Yeah, and then I'll go ahead and like post it.
air.
I'll put it in the description.
It's
Here's
still
what.
recording.
Yeah. Alrighty. Everybody could go ahead and follow us on Twitter at @shutdown_inning. Podcast is on the vehicle of your choice. Thank you for listening and enjoy opening day. Enjoy the baseball season, and let's hear your predictions too. Tweet at us.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and that's what's up.
Bye-bye.